With the NFL draft finishing up today, I wanted to go back to round one and look at my draft grades for each of the first round picks in the 2026 NFL draft. Let's dive right into it. With the number one overall pick, the Las Vegas Raiders drafted Fernando Mendoza. Everyone knew this was going to happen. I'll ultimately give it an A- though. I don't think he's as for sure of a prospect as a guy like Joe Burrow back in 2020. But what I do think Fernando Mendoza is he's going to be a solid player for you going forward. You give him a year to sit behind Kirk Cousins, maybe even two if Kirk plays the way that he potentially could this season. And Fernando Mendoza is going to be a pro-level quarterback, I believe, by year two, where he's ultimately going to take over the reins. I'm not expecting him to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, but if he can get to the top 15 level, then I think the Raiders fans would be really happy with getting the next good quarterback in Vegas since Derek Carr. Next up at number 2, you've got David Bailey going to the New York Jets. I ultimately have this as a B-, C+ type of pick. I'm ultimately going to give it a B- because I do think David Bailey is a good player. The problem with David Bailey is he sucks against the run. You already have Will McDonald on this D-line who also sucks against the run. Ultimately, I think David Bailey was a safer pick between him and Arvell Reese, but I think Arvell Reese, you could have done more with him, and he was for certain going to be a Pro Bowl level off-ball linebacker. The only questions about Arvell Reese were really his IQ in general because he just doesn't seem like the smartest individual in the world. But David Bailey, going to Stanford, going to be able to execute whatever you need him to in this defense. I just worry about the run defense going forward with David Bailey. Next up, Jeremiah Love to the Arizona Cardinals. My personal favorite player in this class, but I'm going to give it a D. The reason I'm going to ultimately give it a D is because I believe that a player like Jeremiah Love is almost like one of the Breece Hall, Ashton Jeanty types of running backs where, yes, they're great players. They're going to be able to make a bunch of splash plays for you, but if you don't surround them with a talented offensive line, talented QB play, or do anything like that, it's going to be a real struggle to really maximize the value from that position. On top of that, we're talking about a guy who's going to be making $15 million a year because he's drafted at that number 3 overall spot, making him a top 7 highest paid running back in the league. Right? We're already paying Jeremiah Love what Jonathan Taylor is making without him ever playing a snap. I don't think a bad team can have the luxury of doing that. Next up, number 4, Carnell Tate. Love the pick. I'm going to give it an A-. I think Carnell Tate was one of the safest players in this draft class to be a perennial top tier wide receiver on a football team, right? I think he's easily your best receiver with the Tennessee Titans. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 NFL wide receiver, but what I do think he's going to be is in that 20 to 15 range. He's going to be really, really solid for you, and ultimately you're just getting Cam Ward some help. I would have loved for you to be able to take Jeremiah Love here, but unfortunately the Cardinals ended up taking him. Next up at number 5, Arvell Reese going to the Giants. I think this is a B+ pick. I think the player Arvell Reese at number 5 is an incredible value pick just because of how much potential he has. My only problem with it is the Giants just don't need help at that position. You may trade Kayvon Thibodeau away, or you may get rid of him at the end of the season, but even then you just didn't need Arvell Reese, and I think you could have gotten some really, really good trade value at this spot for him. Unless, like I said, you get rid of someone. You already have Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter. I think you needed safeties, you need linebackers. Are we really going to have Arvell Reese playing Mike linebacker, though, in your defense? I don't know if he's smart enough to do that, right? So I give it a B+. Next up at number 6, Mansour Delane going to the Chiefs. They gave up a lot to trade up to get him, but I think he fits their team and their scheme perfectly. You needed help at the cornerback position because you traded away Trent McDuffie. I give this pick an A. If you didn't have to trade up and you could have got him at 9, I think it would have been an A+ pick, but I think it's still an A here. Great player. Home run pick. I don't think he can really fail in the NFL in all honesty, especially where he landed. Next up, number 7, Sonny Styles to the Washington Commanders. I don't think this was the biggest need on your defense, but I'm going to still give it an A+. I think that's great value for him right there. And I think he's going to be that green dot guy who flies all over the field, makes a ton of splash plays on defense for you. You would have loved to take a wide receiver here, in my opinion, to just help Jade Daniels out going forward, but really don't mind the pick. Just a great, great player here. Next up at number 8, Saints take Jordan Tyson. I'm going to give this an A+, barring injuries, right? There are injury concerns surrounding Jordan Tyson, but I think putting him and Chris Olave on the same team helps Tyler Shough out a lot. He was my personal favorite wide receiver in this class. I just think there are some injury concerns there that people have noted. Next up at number 9, Spencer Fano to the Browns. You trade back, you get extra draft compensation, and you get your guy at number 9. Love the pick. I wouldn't have liked taking Fano at number 6. I think Fano can play guard and tackle for you. My only question is why not take Francis Maui-Noa here unless you just had a much better grade on him. I do think the Browns won day 2 of the NFL draft. Their day 2 was really, really, really good. And this pick here for me was just one that I liked, but not one that I necessarily loved. So it's one that I'm going to give an A- to because I think you could have taken Francis Maui-Noa, who I liked a little bit more in the long run just off of his potential. Next up at 10, Giants taking Francis Maui-Noa. Once again, just not a pick that I love. Right, the tackle spots are secured. You just signed Jermaine Illuminor, so you're going to move Francis Maui-Noa into guard. Well, now we're taking a guard top 10, and if we wanted to take a guard top 10, I think Ina, who the Ravens took, was pretty much a consensus all-pro level guard when he got to the league, surefire pick. So I just don't really understand the signing here. I think you saw how disappointed Malik Neighbors was. I really thought they were going to get Caleb Downs here. I thought that would have been their home run pick of the draft, and I would have had them winning the first round, getting Arvell Reese and Caleb Downs. You take Maui-Noa, you needed O-line help. It's just unfortunate that guard position, which just isn't as valuable. Granted, you can move him to tackle in a couple years, or if Andrew Thomas continues to not stay healthy, that's a great spot for him too. Next up at number 11, Caleb Downs, A+ for the Cowboys in my opinion. Only got to trade up one spot. I think the Dolphins lost this, and I think the Giants lost this, right? Because the one thing that the Cowboys needed was help on their defense. I think they got the best defensive player in this class in Caleb Downs. Not the most valuable of positions, but home run pick for me here. Green dot guy on your defense makes everyone around him better. Love that pick. Number 12, Caden Proctor. I'm going to ultimately have this being a B-. Yes, you needed O-line help. I think this was a really bad reach, though. You could have traded down, I think, to 16 to 18 and gotten Caden Proctor. Didn't love the pick here, especially not when you could have taken Caleb Downs the pick before. Next up, 13, least favorite pick of the entire first round of the draft, Ty Simpson. I'm going to ultimately give this an F. Reason being, you are in a Super Bowl window. You have the best team in the NFL, in my opinion. Why not continue to load that team up, especially when next year's draft is going to be even better than this one? Even if you really just absolutely love Ty Simpson, you could have traded back in the mid-20s and taken Ty Simpson there. I think this was just a terrible pick by the Rams. And even if Ty Simpson is great one day, you're just getting Brock Purdy, right? And nothing against Brock Purdy, but are we going to use a number 13 overall pick for the potential of Brock Purdy? I really wouldn't do it. So I didn't love that pick there. Here at number 14, Ravens took Ione. I love this. A+. You need to get help on that interior offensive line. You've got to be able to run the ball. You've got to protect Lamar Jackson. And ultimately, you went out and you got a wide receiver later in the draft, which I liked. I don't think you really got anyone who's going to be culture changing in that wide receiver room, but you got a contested catch guy that you really didn't have. So I don't mind the pick at all. Really cool with it. Love the Ione pick here just off of who's on the board. I don't think Mekhi Lemon would have been a good pick here because you already have your slot guy in Zay Flowers. Next up at 15, Ruben Bain. This is actually where I had him mocked to go. I thought he was going to fall this far, and I thought this was the perfect landing spot for him. So I'm going to give this an A+. You needed pass rush help, shorter arms, but a guy who's super explosive, and I think he's still going to be a good contributing piece at the next level, and 15 was a perfect spot for him. I would have thought it was an overreach inside the top 5, but I loved that right there. 16, Kenyon Sadiq going to the Jets. I'll be honest, I didn't love this pick. I'm going to ultimately give it a B- because I just think Kenyon Sadiq kind of a luxury pick for a team that doesn't really have a quarterback. Yes, you're trying to build around your quarterback for next season, but I just didn't love the pick here. I think there were better players available, like you could have gotten a guy like Mekhi Lemon or Omar Cooper Jr. Now, you got Omar Cooper Jr. at 30, which ultimately made this an A+ pick in my opinion, because to get Omar Cooper Jr. that late and still get a guy like Kenyon Sadiq, my only question is, are we running out there with 12 personnel now because we drafted Mason Thomas out of LSU last year, right? Bunch of questions there, but I think Kenyon Sadiq was a solid player. I just felt like, man, that was a little early for him. I thought he was going to fall down to about 19 with the Panthers, so you could have maybe traded back a few spots, but get your guy. Next up, 17, Blake Miller out of Clemson. I think this is a surefire tackle guy. Really high floor in my opinion. Not the highest of ceilings though. I liked it to just make sure you got some O-line help. I would have loved Monroe Freeling here though in my opinion. Higher potential guy who I thought fit Dan Campbell's culture really, really well, but don't hate the pick. Gonna ultimately give it an A- right here. Next up at 18, Caleb Banks. The Vikings have been trying at D-tackle the past couple years. It just isn't working, and I think you reached here, and I think you took a player that you probably shouldn't have taken at this spot. Bunch of injury concerns there. If it works out, it hits big, but more than likely, it's not going to hit out. This could be like a Lewis Cine type of pick, And if that happens, man, why not just let Quasey draft for you this year? Why get an intern GM and it looked this bad, right? I'm going to give this a D. I think this was my second least favorite pick of the entire first round draft. I think the Vikings really bombed this draft. Why are you not taking Dylan Thiemann here? I just don't really know. Here at 19, Monroe Freeling to the Panthers. I would have loved them to get Kenyon Sadiq already off the board. Get some O-line help for Bryce Young. Love the pick there. Only other guy I would have potentially considered here would have been Mekhi Lemon, right? Like, get a guy to pair up with Jalen Coker and Tet McMillan, and you make Bryce's job really, really easy. But never mind O-line, especially on a team with a guy like Bryce Young who needs better protection to ultimately be more successful. Here at 20, Eagles do it again, right? They get one of the steals of the draft. I thought this was a great value pick for them. I'm going to give it an A just because I don't think he's going to be like a top tier NFL wide receiver, but I think he's going to be one of the best slots in the NFL. Now can Smitty play outside? Hopefully he's been doing it more recently, but when he's really the true X, if you do trade away A.J. Brown, can he still do it to the same level that he has been? We'll ultimately see, but I love this pick. I thought he would go in the 15 to 20 range. You get him at 20. I think this is an A, like I said. Next up at 21, Steelers panicked after they couldn't get Mekhi Lemon. They took Max Ironanker, and man, this one's hard for me. I didn't love it. I thought he went a little early here. I thought he was going to be like a 26 to 32 type of guy. I would give this honestly a B minus, right? It could work. You needed a tackle. I don't think he was the best guy on the board for you here. I would have loved for you to trade down and try to get a guy like Caleb Lamu later on. Who really knows though? Could work out, but you did need a Roderick Jones replacement. I would have loved to see Omar Cooper Jr. here though. Pivot from Mekhi Lemon, get him. Make Michael Pittman Jr., Mekhi Lemon, and DK Metcalf be your wide receiving core. That would have been really, really good. They end up getting Jeremy Bernard in the second round, making up for this pick. I thought that was an A-plus level pick there. Really, really good player they got in the second round. Next up at 22, Chargers taking Akeem Mesidor. Absolutely loved this pick, right? You hear he's 25 years old. You're only going to get one, maybe two contracts out of him. I don't care. Great player, going to be really successful for you over this next half decade, and I really, really love the pick. I had him going as early as 15 to the Bucks if Ruben Bain was ultimately gone there. So to get him at 22, instant contributor, Khalil Mack's getting up there in age. Let Akeem Mesidor with his great bend learn from him. Loved that pick. Absolutely loved it. Going to give it an A minus ultimately because the age is still a factor, but I absolutely love that pick there for them. Next up, 23, Malachi Lawrence. I think this was more of a potential pick for the Cowboys in all honesty. He can be an absolute menace on the D-line. At this current moment, I don't think he's that, right? More of a project type of guy. Could you afford a project type of guy? Yes, in my opinion. But my question here is why not take a guy like Dylan Thieneman? Right? If you could pair up Dylan Thieneman and have him as your like free safety to play at the top of your defense and then let Caleb Downs come into the box more often and play kind of that hybrid role and be your green dot guy in the middle of that defense, would have absolutely loved it, but that would have probably been an embarrassment of riches at the safety position. So don't mind you getting an edge guy here. I don't think it was a top need on your team, but it definitely was a need. Here at 24, Browns take KC Concepcion. I think this is like a B+. I'm not as high on Casey as a lot of people just because there are drop issues there, right? Creates a ton of separation, but he struggles with drops. Guess what? You already have Jerry Jeudy on the team. Gets a ton of separation, but struggles with drops, right? So didn't love the pick for the Browns specifically, but I think to get him at that point was still a really solid value pick because he's a guy who should have went in his 22 to 27 range. And I think that was just a good pick overall for them. Next up, probably my favorite pick, second favorite pick of the entire first round, Dylan Thieneman landing at 25 to the Bears. I think that was the best value they could have possibly gotten in the entire first round. You needed safety because you lost Kevin Byard. You need a guy to step into an all-pro shoes, and I think Thieneman can do that. He's best at that free safety role, just patrol the middle of the defense, and I think you got a home run draft pick for years to come. 26 with the Texans, Keelan Rutledge. You needed O-line help. I think you reached on him. Pregnon could have been gotten in the third or fourth round, right? Why not just take Pregnon way later in this draft instead of reaching for Rutledge, right? Rutledge is going to be really, really good in run blocking, but man, I just thought this was early, especially when you could have still gotten a guy like Caleb Lamu at this position, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Rutledge is really, really good, but I'm going to ultimately have this be a C+ pick just because I think it was a reach, but it was still a position of need. Next up at 27, Dolphins take Chris Johnson. I didn't love this pick. I thought he was a day two type of guy. They must have really, really liked him though. My question is why not just take Colton Hood? Trade down, take Colton Hood if you don't think others like him as much. Why not just wait and take Jermod McCoy if you knew he was going to fall in this draft as much as he did? Didn't love the pick, but it's okay, right? It's a position of need. It's just like, man, Chris Johnson in the first round, I did not have a first round grade on him, but whatever, right? Next up, 28, Caleb Lamu. I think we're going to have to go honestly here with an A plus because I don't think this was a pick for you. I think it was a pick to trade away to get AJ Brown, and I think the Patriots need AJ Brown on this team, right? Like you need a wide receiver who can be a 100+ target type of guy, create separation, make those 50-50 catches turn into 80-20, and just continue to help Drake May progress, improve on Stephon Diggs from last year with a guy like AJ Brown. Next up, 29, Peter Woods. I think this is an A minus. In my opinion, I think you're going to be able to help fill in kind of Chris Jones' shoes as he continues to age and play worse and worse. Guy who's going to play 3 technique for you. Just makes your D-line a lot better, in my opinion. Love the value here. If he can stay in shape and be the consistent guy that he was in 2024, love it. If he plays like he did in 2025, hate the pick, right? You're ultimately betting that getting him in a winning culture like this will help him just be the version that he can be. So I love that there for the Chiefs. Here at 30, Jets take Omar Cooper Jr. A+, A+, A+. I did not think he would be here at 30. I thought he would be gone by 24. So I absolutely love this pick. Great slot receiver for you. You're going to pair up really, really, really well with Garrett Wilson. Unfortunately, Geno Smith is your quarterback, but to have Kenyon Sadiq, Breece Hall, a really, really solid O-line, Omar Cooper Jr., and Garrett Wilson. I mean, what else could you want in an offense, right? So I really love that. 31, Keldrick Falk to the Titans. Wasn't as high in Keldrick Falk as a bunch of people, but absolutely crazy amount of potential. I think if there's anybody who can get the most out of him, it's going to be Robert Saleh. So I really love the value at 31, right? I didn't like him if he was going to go in that mid-20s range like a lot of people had him going, but I absolutely love the value at 31. So I'm going to give this a A-. Next up at 32, Seahawks take Jadarian Price. I'm okay with the pick. I think it was a little bit of a reach, but you get that 5th-year option on him if he's really, really good. I would have personally liked you to get the running back out of Arkansas later on in the draft. Forget his name right now off the top of my head, and I would have loved a guy like Colton Hood right here. I think you need to fill in that Tariq Woolen loss in your secondary, and I would have loved Colton Hood. But like I said, I think this is still a needed position on a really talented roster. I'm ultimately going to give it a B- just because I think you could have gotten Colton Hood and taken a running back later in the draft. But if you felt like the fall off from Price is that big, then ultimately I don't mind the pick. B- right there. Thanks for watching. Let me know down below how you feel about certain draft picks in this first round. Thanks for watching, and see ya.